The Galactic Council had always considered humans to be an oddity, soft-bodied, short-lived, and concerningly emotional. But what truly baffled the assembled species of the known universe was humanity's inexplicable attachment to creatures that weren't even their own offspring. Sydney Martinez had heard all the lectures during her xenobiology training. She understood, intellectually, that the Valerian cubs weren't her responsibility. The massive, leonine aliens were perfectly capable of defending their young. But standing in the smoldering ruins of the trading post on Kepler 442b, staring at the tiny Valerian cub cowering behind a overturned cargo container, Sydney's training evaporated like morning dew under twin suns. The cub couldn't have been more than 2 solar cycles old, barely past infancy by Valerian standards. Its bronze fur was matted with dust and fear musk, and its 6 amber eyes were wide with terror. The raid had come without warning. Kresh pirates, notorious throughout the sector for their brutality and their particular fondness for selling exotic aliens on the black market. "Sydney, we need to leave. Now." Bentley Foster's voice crackled through her comlink, urgent but controlled. Her partner stood 30 meters away, his plasma rifle tracking the movements of 3 Kresh raiders who were systematically looting the settlement's medical supplies. "There's a cub, Bentley. I can't just. The Valerian Defense Force is 7 minutes out. We're civilians. We're not equipped for." The largest of the Kresh raiders, a 7-foot-tall insectoid nightmare with chitinous plating and 4 arms, spotted the cub. Its mandibles clicked in what Sydney had learned was the Kresh equivalent of a laugh. The creature's reputation preceded it. Zarthok the Render, wanted on 17 worlds for atrocities that made seasoned soldiers weep. As Zarthok raised his plasmacaster, the weapon humming with lethal energy, pointed directly at the trembling cub. Something ancient and primal ignited in Sydney's chest. Every human who'd ever stood between danger and something vulnerable, every parent who'd thrown themselves in front of a threat, every person who'd ever said, "Not on my watch," their collective defiance surged through her veins. She moved. Not toward her weapon. Not toward cover. Directly at Zarthok. The Kresh Raider had approximately 0.3 seconds to register confusion before Sydney collided with him at full sprint. In any rational universe, this should have been suicide. Kresh warriors were stronger, faster, and armored with biological plates that could deflect small arms fire. But Sydney wasn't being rational. She was being human. Her first strike targeted the joint where Zarthok's upper right arm connected to his thorax, a vulnerable point she'd memorized from intelligence briefings she'd studied obsessively after the last Kresh raid. The combat knife in her hand, forged from diamond carbide composite, punched through chitin like it was papered. Zarthok's shriek could have shattered glass. His arm didn't just go limp. It separated entirely, tumbling to the dust with the plasmacaster still clutched in its grip. "Sydney!" Bentley's shout mixed horror and awe in equal measure. The other 2 raiders turned, but Bentley was already moving. Whatever hesitation he'd felt evaporated the moment his partner committed. His first shot took down the raider on the left. His second provided covering fire as Sydney ducked under Zarthok's retaliatory swipe. Humans, the galaxy had learned, possessed a peculiar quality called hysterical strength, a temporary boost in physical capability triggered by extreme stress. But this was something else. This was calculated fury, muscle memory from 100 training sessions, and the absolute certainty that retreat wasn't an option. Sydney's second strike severed Zarthok's lower left arm. The Kresh warrior staggered, hemolymph spraying an arc that painted the ground purple. His remaining arms scrambled for a backup weapon, but Sydney was already inside his guard. "You pointed a gun," she hissed, her voice cold enough to freeze hydrogen, "at a child." The third strike took his lower right arm. The fourth, his final remaining limb, Zarthok the Render, scourge of the outer colonies, collapsed into the dust. Literally disarmed, his severed appendages scattered around him like grotesque confetti. The remaining raider took one look at the scene. This tiny human standing amid a pile of his commander's limbs, covered in purple ichor, knife still raised, and fled. Bentley's plasma bolt caught him mid-stride, and he didn't get up. Silence descended on the ruined trading post. Sydney didn't move towards Zarthok's twitching form. She didn't check to see if the threat was neutralized. Instead, she walked directly to the cargo container and knelt down beside the Valerian cub. "Hey, sweetie." she whispered, her voice transforming from glacier to warm honey. It's okay now. You're safe. The cub's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. Then, with a sound like a diesel engine attempting to purr, it stumbled forward and pressed its massive head against Sydney's chest. Bentley approached cautiously, his rifle still raised. Sydney, his arms are all gone. Yes, I noticed. She stroked the cub's fur with shaking hands, the adrenaline finally beginning to ebb. He was going to kill a baby, Bentley. I know. I'm not criticizing. I'm just processing. He looked at Zarthok's still form, then back at his partner. The council is going to have questions. Let them ask. Sydney stood, the cub following her like an oversized, 6-eyed puppy. I did what any human would do. The Valerian Defense Force arrived 4 minutes later. They found 2 human civilians standing guard over a crime scene, one traumatized but unharmed cub, and the infamous Zarthok the Render, alive but thoroughly dismembered. The incident report made its way through channels, eventually landing on the desk of the Galactic Council's Behavioral Analysis Division. The xenopsychologists studied it for weeks, trying to understand the human response. Their conclusion, marked as classified. Humans possess an irrational but apparently unshakable instinct to protect vulnerable beings, regardless of species. This instinct can override self-preservation, tactical sense, and chain of command. Recommend: never threaten the young of any species in a human's presence. The response is swift, disproportionate, and disturbingly effective. A footnote was added by the military attaché. Also recommend: if you must engage humans in combat, keep track of your limbs. They seem to have strong feelings about where those should remain. Sydney never spoke about the incident publicly. But in the hidden corners of the galactic network, among the species who'd suffered under Kresh brutality, a new legend spread. The human who made arms go missing when someone threatened a child. And throughout the galaxy, predators began to learn a valuable lesson. Humans were soft, emotional, and irrational, but threatened something they'd decided to protect. And you'd discover exactly why they'd clawed their way to the top of their planet's food chain, 0.1 dismemberment at a time.